Introduction: The Overrunning of the Golden Cup. Welcome back, fierce traveler of the untamed peaks. Step away from the valley of common illusions and sit with me on the high, cold rocks where the air is pure and sharp. You live in a world that treats love as a safety net for the weak, a mutual sympathy pact for the lonely, or a disguised form of ownership that people dress in the vocabulary of devotion. You are told that to love someone means to merge your weaknesses, to cry together over your shared miseries, and to turn your partnership into a shelter from the terrifying demands of life. Yet, deep within your chest, there is an instinct that rebels against this fragile warmth. You have begun to feel that human love should not be a mutual exchange of crutches, but a magnificent explosion of power. Let us ascend the solitary heights of the Swiss Alps and sit beneath the brilliant sky with Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who held a hammer over the idols of human weakness and spoke with the voice of the lightning. He did not view love as a passive emotion of pity or a comfortable contract of security. He viewed love as a dangerous, beautiful fire, a manifestation of the will to power that can either consume your spirit in a petty battle of control or refine your character into the form of the overman. He famously observed that what is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil. True affection is not a moral duty. It is an overflowing abundance. In this mini audiobook, we will shatter the matrix of sentimental pity through Nietzsche's philosophy of strength. We will dissolve the modern illusions of romantic dependence and uncover the hidden path of spiritual overflow. We will examine why your connections turn into bitter trenches of manipulation, how to transform your loneliness into a holy weapon of creation, and how loving your fate with absolute passion can liberate you from the gravity of resentment. Open the wings of your internal courage. Let us begin the golden meditation that transforms love from a desperate search for completion into a triumphant celebration of life. Chapter 1: The Will to Power in Connection. To comprehend love through the explosive lens of Nietzsche, you must first master his definition of life itself. He taught that the fundamental driving force of all organic reality is not the mere struggle for survival or the pursuit of pleasure. He declared that life is the will to power. It is the insatiable hunger of every living organism to expand its limits, to express its inner strength, to master its environment, and to grow into a higher, more dominant form of excellence. This will to power is the hidden current operating beneath all your human interactions. Schopenhauer saw desire as a blind trap of reproduction, but Nietzsche pulls the curtain back further. Love is frequently the most ingenious disguise of your ego's hunger for ownership. When you say you have fallen in love with someone, your immediate impulse is to make them yours. You want to possess their thoughts, control their schedule, monopolize their attention, and dominate their preferences. You are behaving like a conqueror who has encountered a beautiful new territory and wants to build a wall around it. Nietzsche warns you to have the absolute honesty to look at this possessiveness without masks. Most of what humanity calls love is not an act of generosity. It is a refined form of greed. It is the desire of a separate, hungry ego to consume another human being to satisfy its own deep insecurities and fears of isolation. To move toward a connection that does not turn into a prison, you must be willing to transform your will to power. You must move from the love of the conqueror to the love of the giver, the love that does not seek to possess, but to overflow. Chapter 2: The Two Sources of Affection. Let us look closely at the two completely opposing sources from which human affection can spring. Nietzsche observed that you can love another person either out of scarcity or out of abundance. The entire quality of your relationship depends on which of these two chambers your desire originates from. The first source is scarcity. This is the love of the weak, the lonely, and the unhealed. Because you cannot stand the sight of your own mind, because your inner house is empty and full of conflict, you look for a partner to come and save you from yourself. You use their affection as a drug to numb your existential dread. This connection is born from a lack. It is a desperate grasp in the dark. It is the love of the beggar who needs a coin of validation to survive the day. Nietzsche warns that two beggars can never create a wealthy home. They can only share their misery. The second source is abundance. This is the love of the strong, the solitary, and the virtuous. This connection happens when an individual has spent years organizing their own mind, taming their passions, and building an inner fortress of creative power. Their cup is full to the brim, and it begins to overrun naturally. They do not look at the partner and ask, "What can this person give me to fix my loneliness?" They look at the partner and say, "My life is a golden harvest, and I have so much light that I must pour it into another's soul." This is love from strength, the only connection that is completely free from the sickness of manipulation and fear. Chapter 3. The Danger of Holy Pity. Think of the traditional religious and cultural virtues that command you to love through the practice of continuous pity. You are told that the highest form of goodness is to feel the suffering of the world, to weep with those who weep, and to throw your energy into carrying the miseries of everyone around you. Nietzsche shakes this idol with absolute violence. He declares that pity is a toxic, life-denying force that multiplies the suffering of the universe. He observed that when you look at a friend who is suffering and you choose to join them in their depression, you are not helping them stand up. You are simply adding your own weight to their pit. You have allowed their shadow to conquer your light. Pity does not heal the wound. It turns the wound into a cult of shared weakness. It creates a secret, twisted pride where you feel like a holy savior simply because you are participating in someone else's failure to grow. True Socratic and Nietzschean love does not practice pity. It practices compulsion toward excellence. If you love someone with a strong heart, you do not coddle their weaknesses or help them make excuses for their laziness. You look at their suffering as an arena of testing. You challenge them to stand on their own feet, to master their pain, and to unleash the warrior within their own spirit. You care too much about their potential to celebrate their self-pity. You love them not by holding their hand in the mud, but by demanding that they climb the mountain with you. Chapter 4. The Illusion of the Neighbor. A major error of modern culture and traditional moralities is the obsession with loving the neighbor, the casual, immediate environment around you. People run into public charities, join social movements, and participate in endless community groups, claiming that they love humanity. Nietzsche pulls away this mask with a sharp, ironical precision. He states that your love for the neighbor is often just a disguised flight from yourselves. You run to your neighbor because you are terrified of your own solitude. You fill your days with their gossip, their problems, and their shallow validations because you lack the courage to sit in a quiet room and face the raw architecture of your own consciousness. Your public generosity is a form of spiritual cowardice. You love the neighbor because it allows you to remain completely blind to the uncultivated garden of your own mind. Nietzsche commands you to leave behind the love of the neighbor and discover the love of the furthest, the love of the future, the love of the ultimate human potential, and the love of the generation that will break the chains of common ignorance. Stop using human connections as a social distraction. If you enter into a relationship, do so not to escape your solitude, but to strengthen it. Seek companions who are invested in the grand architecture of tomorrow, ensuring that your home becomes a laboratory for the creation of the Overman. Chapter 5. The Art of Great Friendship. Now we arrive at the peak of Nietzsche's vision, the concept of the great friend. To Nietzsche, friendship is a vastly higher and more majestic connection than the common romances of the marketplace. Romance is frequently a chaotic storm of passions that collapses into domestic routine, but a great friendship is a long, intentional alignment of two noble spirits dedicated to the pursuit of the ideal. He famously wrote, "In your friend, you should have your best enemy. Your heart should be closest to him when you withstand him." This is a profound, counterintuitive truth that shatters all modern definitions of intimacy. A true friend is not a person who agrees with your every opinion, flatters your vanities, and makes you feel comfortable in your flaws. A true friend is your ultimate adversary. They are the person who challenges your self-deceptions with the greatest force because they love your potential too much to let you remain mediocre. This relationship requires an incredible maturity of character. You must have a mind that is strong enough to receive a blow to your pride and view it as a divine gift of liberation. You do not look at your friend's correction as an act of hostility. You look at it as the surgical intervention of a coworker in human excellence. You are two blades sharpening each other in the fire of shared examination, ensuring that neither spirit becomes soft, lazy, or corrupted by the illusions of the valley. Chapter 6. The Choice of the Starry Friendship. Nietzsche observed that human lives often touch each other for a short season and then naturally drift apart into different directions, driven by the inner laws of their separate characters. In the modern world, when a relationship ends or when friends move away, people fall into bitterness, claiming that they were betrayed or that the connection was a failure. They hold on to the past with resentful hands. To cure this sickness, Nietzsche offers his beautiful concept of the starry friendship. He invites you to view your human connections through a cosmic perspective. Think of two grand stars in the universe that fly along their majestic orbits. For a brief, glorious period, their paths cross, and they share the same sky, illuminating each other with their brilliant fires. But the laws of their trajectories command them to continue forward into different galaxies. There is no malice in this separation. It is the natural geometry of growth. When a friendship or a romance reaches its natural conclusion, do not pollute the memory with your resentments or your tears. Stand firm, look at the departing star, and say, "We loved each other, and we walked the same sky, and our connection was a beautiful necessity of nature. Now our orbits lead us apart, but the light we generated remains forever in the moral structure of my spirit." You release them with an open hand, completely free from the weight of regret. Chapter 7. The Foundations of Healthy War. A major illness of modern relationships is the pursuit of a false, passive peace. People enter into partnerships with the agreement that they will never challenge each other, never trigger each other's insecurities, and never allow any conflict to enter their home. They create a sterile, superficial politeness where everything is hidden behind a wall of diplomatic smiles. Nietzsche warns you that this passive peace is the death of the spirit that he wrote. You must be proud of your enemy. Then the successes of your enemy are also your successes. He applies this discipline of healthy war to the realm of intimacy. Conflict is not a sign that a relationship is broken. Conflict is the natural heat generated when two independent, powerful forces are merging their realities. A healthy relationship must have room for beautiful, creative warfare. You must be strong enough to state your truth without fear. You must be brave enough to clash with the values of your partner when those values are slipping into mediocrity or laziness. This is not the violence of the low ego that wants to crush and humiliate. It is the holy combat of two warriors who are fighting to keep the flame of integrity alive within their house. True peace is not the absence of war. True peace is the ability to wage war with absolute respect, honor, and love for the dignity of your adversary. Chapter 8. The Danger of Emotional Tyranny. When you enter a connection from a position of inner weakness, you naturally begin to practice the dark art of emotional tyranny. Because you are terrified of being abandoned, or because you cannot master your own passions, you use your vulnerability as a weapon to manipulate your companion. You use your tears, your guilt trips, and your breakdowns to force them into compliance with your demands. Nietzsche pulls the mask off this behavior with total ruthlessness. He declares that the display of weakness is frequently the most aggressive manifestation of the will to power. The person who plays the victim is often the most absolute tyrant in the house. They use their fragile state to trap the other person in a prison of constant guilt, making them responsible for their happiness and their survival. This emotional tyranny destroys the very essence of true connection. It turns your home into a hospital where one person is the permanent patient and the other is the exhausted nurse. Nietzsche calls you to step out of this sick room. He demands that you take total, uncompromised responsibility for your own emotional weather. Stop using your wounds to control the breath of your partner. Stand up as an independent sovereign. so that your love can be a clean choice of freedom rather than a desperate contract of emotional blackmail. Chapter 9. The Sovereign Law of Amor Fati. Now we arrive at the absolute masterstroke of Nietzsche's philosophy, the sovereign law of amor fati, the unconditional love of your fate. This is the ultimate test of human greatness, the capacity to look at your entire life, with all its unspeakable pain, its losses, its mistakes, its tragedies, and its brief moments of joy, and to say to the universe, I want it all over again, exactly as it happened, for all eternity. How do you bring this heavy, golden law into the realm of human love? You apply it by accepting the person you love with an absolute, uncompromised gratitude, refusing to wish that a single hair on their head or a single page of their past were different. When your partner stumbles, when they face a season of deep sickness, or when your relationship encounters a massive trial of fire, you do not complain or ask why fate is unfair. You say, this is my fate, and therefore I love it. This trial is the raw material out of which I must sculpt my own greatness. The companion who tests my patience is my instructor in self-mastery. The betrayal that broke my heart is the alarm clock that woke me up into absolute self-reliance. You stop fighting reality. You love the whole tapestry, the shadows and the light, knowing that every single event was a beautiful necessity designed to shape you into a vessel of pure, uncompromised power. Chapter 10. The Overflow of the Overman. The concept of the Overman, or the Superman, is often misunderstood as a political tyrant or a cold master who dominates the weak through physical force. Nietzsche clears away this error by showing that the true Overman is the supreme master of his own internal chaos. He is the individual who has organized his passions, conquered his fears, and achieved a state of absolute spiritual wealth. The love of the Overman is the highest form of connection possible in the universe. It is the love that speaks from total abundance. The Overman does not love because he needs a partner to complete him, or because he is afraid of the quiet night, or because he craves social validation. He loves because his spirit is a golden cup that is so incredibly full of creative energy that it must run over naturally. When you achieve this level of character, your love becomes a public blessing. You do not give to receive a return on your investment. You give because the act of giving is the ultimate proof of your own power and wealth. You pour your light, your wisdom, and your strength into the beloved without holding a ledger in your mind. You love with a clean, open, non-possessive hand, completely free from the sickness of jealousy, because you know that your internal treasure can never be stolen by any external event. Chapter 11. The Sacred Discipline of Solitude. To preserve this state of magnificent abundance and internal fortress-like stability, you must master the sacred discipline of a noble solitude. Nietzsche wrote extensively about the necessity of fleeing from the marketplace of common noise and returning to the quiet chambers of your own mind to refine your vision. If you cannot find total fulfillment within your own creative and intellectual resources, you will always enter into relationships from a position of panic and hunger. You will use other human beings as a shield to protect you from the sight of your own emptiness. You will become an emotional parasite, draining the energy of your partner to feed your own lack of purpose. Noble solitude is the laboratory where your spirit grows its wings. When you stand alone on the mountain, when you face your own dark valleys without masks, and when you learn to love your own company, you become unshakable. You enter into a relationship not to find a savior, but to share a magnificent, heroic journey with another whole spirit who has also conquered the fear of being alone. Your intimacy is a meeting of two sovereigns, not a collision of two dependents. Chapter 12. The Eternal Return of True Affection. Let us close our deep, uncompromised meditation by standing with Nietzsche on the highest peak of his vision, looking at his ultimate thought, the eternal return of the same. He invites you to imagine a demon creeping into your room in the middle of the night and telling you that this current life you live will have to be repeated an infinite number of times, down to every single tear, every single joy, in every single argument. How would you respond to this demon? Would you fall to the ground and curse him, or would you experience a moment of divine joy? Nietzsche commands you to live your relationships in such a way that you can welcome the eternal return with an open heart. Look at the person sitting across from you right now. Speak your words, make your choices, and show your care in such a way that you can proudly say to the cosmos, "I want this exact moment to repeat for all eternity." Stop living your connections in a lazy, repetitive sleep. Clean your mind from the pollution of small resentments. Make your love a conscious monument of dignity, strength, and absolute beauty, knowing that every act of noble affection is an eternal victory of light over chaos. Walk firmly in this majestic awareness. Let the world chase its shadows, and let your mind remain anchored in the eternal light of power. Conclusion: rise and fly. My beloved traveler of the clean heights, lift your eyes from the foggy trenches of the common marketplace. Do not allow your short, precious life to be consumed by a definition of love that views you only as a consumer of emotional validation or a collector of superficial security. You are not a mechanical puppet. You are a conscious creator capable of absolute awakening. As you step back into the routine of your daily existence, carry the map of Nietzsche's strength within your chest. Do not run away from the conflicts or the trials you meet in your relationships. Use them as your arena to practice the supreme weapon of your self-mastery. Hold the space of the great friend and the beautiful enemy for everyone you love. Transform your dependency into an overflowing abundance of creative light, and cultivate a noble solitude that makes your inner fortress completely independent of the variable weather of the world. You are not alone in this grand architecture of liberation. The same pure will to excellence that has guided the greatest spirits through the centuries is breathing clarity into your mind right now, breaking your chains, and reminding you of your true dignity. You are the builder of tomorrow. Walk confidently in that light, and let the illusions of the valley dissolve forever. Peace and absolute, unshakable power be with you on the grand journey.